Hello and welcome to Braveheart Conversations,
where we learn the art of love through brave and compassionate conversations. I'm Jillian Aurora.
And I'm Marie Wallace.
And we are your hosts today.
Welcome to Braveheart Conversations. I am Jillian Aurora, and my co-host today is Marie Wallace.
Hello, everybody.
And we are so happy you're joining us today. We are taking a little bit of a break from our lives at this moment because of the coronavirus pandemic. So we are here with you on Zoom. And this is also always on our platform as well, on Podbean and Spotify. And we generally are here each week on Facebook Live, which we will continue doing as soon as we can figure out that technology piece. So welcome wherever you are joining from. And if you'd like to join us for conversation or live videos in the future, you can follow us on Facebook in our group, Braveheart Conversations. So you can find us at facebook.com/groups/Braveheart Conversations. And today, Marie and I are going to be talking with you about self-worth, specifically earning self-worth. So very often what we do is we try to prove our worth through lots of different avenues. And I want to open up this conversation with a quote from Brené Brown, a little bit of a paraphrase, but she says, if you go out in the world looking for evidence that you're not good enough, you will always find it. And I really have found that to be true. I love that quote. It's very sobering.
Yeah, it is.
So I was kind of thinking about some ways that I've seen, both in myself and other people, how we try to find the evidence that we're not good enough. So let's start out this conversation with just a discussion, how we do this, what's happened. You know, self-worth is something that it doesn't matter who you are. If you have a pulse and you're breathing, you have struggled with self-worth. You have struggled
Agreed.
with shame and feeling not good enough, and who do you think you are, and all of those things. You have struggled with it. I've struggled with it. Marie has struggled with it. It's a human condition. So we don't have to be owned by self-worth issues. We don't have to be owned by shame issues, but they will pop up. So it's important to know what to do when they come up and how to stand up to those voices. So
I like this. This is going to be great.
Yeah, let's just start out with, one of the biggest ones, believing that you are only as valuable as everybody else's opinion. And very often believing you're as important as the worst opinion. Very often, how funny is it that we can have 10 different people tell us how impacted they've been by us, and they think that we're just the best thing that ever happened since sliced bread. We can have a bunch of people tell us how amazing we are, and then we can have that one person that says you're a piece of shit and who do you think you are, and lots of the criticisms. And which one sticks with us? Very often it is the idea that, oh my God, he knows I'm a piece of shit. Right? So let's talk about that. How do we incorporate other people's opinions of us, and how do we stand up against the voices when they happen? So Marie, what are your thoughts about other people's opinion of us and how we internalize that?
I appreciate you saying it's a human condition, because it really it does affect us all, where we want to be accepted, and it's usually a social norm. Often that I have witnessed is, maybe it's my appearance, or being accepted as a friend, or being part of a certain group that I've always wanted to be a part of. I see it a lot in teenagers, and I do a lot of work with kids and teenagers in general, just wanting to feel part of something, belong. I think there's a whole long list of the whys probably. But yeah, we just want to feel normal, that we're okay. But I'm not sure why we choose the person who thinks that we're the worst, because it validates something that we're saying in our head that says, yeah, you're a piece of shit. I knew it. I knew I was a piece of shit.
Well, I think it really does go back to this idea of what are we searching for? If we're searching for evidence that we're not good enough, it is that, to me, that's an indicator. If I'm really paying attention to the critics and I'm really paying attention to people who have a poor opinion of me, it's that idea that I'm searching for evidence. I'm searching for proof that I'm not good enough. And so I'm really the only one that gets to change that. I get to identify, oh, that's what's happening. I'm searching for evidence right now. So how do I get to change the script? And how do I get to then say, well, let's look at the evidence that I am good enough, right?
Yes.
Plenty of that too. And then, the reality is self-worth isn't earned, period. So
No.
I like to give the analogy of the treadmill. When we think we're earning our self-worth, very often we're on a treadmill. It never ends, right? We get the bachelor's degree and that's still not good enough. That still hasn't proved that we're worthy enough. So maybe we got to get the master's degree and we got to get the doctorate, and then that's not really good enough. So we better, I don't know, become a professor, or we better, get all these other accolades. Like it's not ever done. You've never proven that you're good enough. For me, it was achievement, and it was how many people I helped. So I thought my value was based on, I did go get the degree. I got the piece of paper, and I got jobs that I was in the field of social work. So I was constantly helping and serving. And you could see that in all of my relationships, and romantic relationships, friendships, and jobs. Like all of those avenues were areas I was trying to prove my worth through helping. They were very codependent relationships. So for me, self-worth was something I was trying to earn. And then I came to the realization eventually that self-worth is something that I brought with me. It's not something that I can make less or make more. My value is the same when I was a baby, and when I go to the grave, I will have been worth exactly the same, and it won't matter what I have accomplished. So I would not look at a homeless man on the street or the president as less valuable. They're both human beings. They both hold the same intrinsic value. We wouldn't look at a baby and say, all you do is cry and shit and ask for food. So what value are you of to me?
Yeah.
We wouldn't say that, because they're worth as much as you or I am. They're human beings. Every life has value, has the same value. So if we're buying into a different belief that we have to earn it, we really are just buying into another belief that's not true. We brought our worth with us.
I'm really glad that you added that part, because I think that's the human part too. We always, forget that we're all as valuable as the other, and we try to outdo each other, or it feels like that sometimes hierarchy maybe gets in the way, or the voices that, definitely who are you listening to, as that's a big one. So we think that if we just work hard, mine has been the achievement as well, or if I work harder, because I grew up during the let's work harder, and if I'm not accomplishing something, because it was grades too, like grades and abilities, performance, like lots of things were based on performance. And I think that's the way jobs go too. They're just basing you, and they're comparing you with other people, so that comparison pops up, and then you go, well, I'm not as good as that person because they got this grade and I got that grade. And I just think that our society paradigm gets to shift as well, which is interesting how some of that stuff is changing right now. But social media, it's my appearance, who has the most likes. It's how much is my net worth? Money comes up sometimes, quite a bit actually.
Huge. Yeah, I think comparison is a big way that we it's all wrapped up in that achievement again. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, what do I have? What have I done, and how does that compare to everybody else? And yeah, that's not a very good indicator of our worth. So this is a really, really big one that I see a lot, is searching for validation of your gifts and talents through a degree or a certificate or some piece of paper, somebody outside of yourself telling you that your gifts are valid. And this has been a big journey for me. So as a coach, I had some major voices and hangups. I did have a degree, or do have a degree in criminal justice, actually, which is kind of funny. And it doesn't really do much service to me at all in my career path. But it was very interesting as I started this journey into coaching. There were so many voices that came up that I needed to go get a certificate, or even, you know, if you get a certificate, there's still all of this criticism out there around coaching, like, oh, it's not really a valid profession, and all these things. So what's interesting to me is I have learned what I was seeking in getting the degree. I have nothing against education. I think education is great. I think pursuing knowledge, it's a process that never ends. It's the motivation that we get to become aware of and honest about. If I'm going to get a degree in order to prove my worth, that's very different than just saying I love learning and this class is fun for me, and I'm learning so much. They're very, very different vibrations, very different motivations. And for me, I learned that I have gifts. I have innate gifts that I brought to this planet that I was born with, that I don't need external validation for. I don't have to go to a college or a coaching certificate program or anything outside of myself. I don't need them to tell me that my gifts are worth something in order for them to already be worth it. Now, can I add knowledge? Always. Can I add wisdom through my experience? Always. I'm always learning. But that doesn't change the value of the gifts that I came to this planet with. I came to this planet with a unique set of skills and gifts. I have keys, just like you have keys, to other people's problems and puzzles. I have puzzle pieces for your puzzle.
Yeah.
You have puzzle pieces for my puzzle. And there's no college that can give you that. You came here with that. I came here with that. And so very often what I see in the education system is that we're trying to validate. And the truth is, coming from the mental health field, I saw a ton of people with letters behind their name. You know, I saw a lot of people who, in the eyes of education and academia, they had a lot going for them. But I also saw a lot of people with a lot of letters behind their name that were really bad at connecting with people and really seeing a lot of changes in their clients' or patients' lives. I also saw people who didn't have all the letters behind their name, and they made a great deal of impact in people's lives. So it's really interesting how that dynamic works. Even though the people who had it all and had all the validation, it doesn't mean that it's going to give them those innate gifts. You either have them or you don't. There's only so much you can learn in college. You can't actually be imparted those gifts just by education. Can you enhance your gifts? Can you enhance your knowledge? Sure, absolutely. Always, through anything, not just college. But I see this as a really huge thing. When I hear clients, or especially women, saying, you know, I really need to get to college. I really need to get this degree. If it's a dream, sure, I totally get it. If that's a dream and ambition that you really want to get a degree, go get it. Question what your motives are and be honest. Be honest with yourself. Are you doing this in order to prove that you're good enough? Are you doing this to prove that the gifts that you have are good enough? Or are you going simply out of joy and wanting to add knowledge and experience to your life? I think there's a huge key difference there.
I think that's the number one way that I see as well, is we're looking for that validation through a piece of paper, or and you hit it very well too, like joy. If you're going to college because you really want to, you get excited. I'm a learner as well. I get real excited about learning. I always want to add to my skills and to that. I know that wasn't the reason. Well, my very first experience with college, I really wanted to be a teacher. So I did go for that. But then I started adding the other things because I felt that it was, something. It also, society sort of says if you have that piece of paper too, then you're more valid than another. And so I agree with you too. I've had those teachers who they have like all the letters behind their name and they write on 3 or 4 boards, but when you go to relate to them as a person, they don't want to have anything to do with you, and they don't, and they have this amazing wisdom, but they don't know how to impart it. But that was a little digression, but really it's just thinking that piece of paper, or if someone accepts my wisdom. I think coaching gets really tricky, because if someone takes my advice, then yay, I'm a better person, or wasn't I so great that I helped that person? And you're going, wait a minute, that's not my motivation, because I think we all innately really do love helping. I get that. Whether someone takes our advice or not isn't an indication of my value or worth either. It's something that, it's a gift, and I'm giving them what I have in the moment and the time, and it's something that they can use or not use, and that it doesn't mean I'm not valuable or worth anything. Because like you said, who am I listening to in that too? Because plenty of times I've been told how something I've said or shared or been part of has been very valuable, and I can't put my worth on that, or work harder. So I appreciate you saying those things. Just, what are your motivations? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you listening to the people that you're listening to? So
Yeah, definitely. Because there's plenty of people out there that will tell you you're worth more if you go get the piece of paper, because a lot of us are very stuck in the hierarchy. And so remember that the people with the biggest self-worth issues are often the ones who are so achievement oriented, that the ones that have gotten all the degrees, and I'm not saying everybody's motive is this way. You can have lots of degrees and not have your worth attached to it. But for many people, that has proven their worth. So you try to take that from them, or you try to step outside that paradigm, and their teeth will come out. Why? Because you're like threatening their worth, right? You are threatening who they are. And so I like to say, like, if I can't take my degree off the wall and burn it and not feel that my identity has changed at all, like that's kind of my goal, is I'm not attached to that. Like, I have it, fine, but it doesn't mean anything about who I am. It was just a fun thing I did, right? Because learning and knowledge is fun for me. So remember, you've got plenty of people around you that are still stuck in that hierarchy system. So people that are stuck in the hierarchy system, they are going to be resistant to you, like just having innate gifts and not proving or validating their worth, because they already went through that process, and they've kind of already sold their soul. So hopefully that makes sense.
Hopefully people oops, sorry. Had a lull. Hopefully people will embrace those gifts, because now more than ever, I think that I see some hierarchy shattering, and that allows more people to share their gifts, their innate talents and abilities. And that's what we really need right now in the world. We need you to show up the way that you show up, because your gifts are important, and you're going to appeal to certain people that really need what you have to offer. And shying away from it or shunning it, saying you don't have this or that, or you don't know these people, or you don't have this money, or you don't have this, you know, you have so much beauty and worth. And just because of who you are, you came here with specific talents and value. And not being your gifts is like you said earlier in the beginning when you were talking about the puzzle pieces. You have someone's puzzle piece, and if you're not your gifts and talents and all those things that you come with, then someone's missing you. You're leaving that little missing thing, and that's annoying when you're doing a puzzle.
Well, it's really interesting because I think this actually causes a lot of people to be very depressed, because there's this idea that I know I have all these gifts and I have this purpose, but I have to wait until I get this degree. And usually there's other barriers. I have to wait until I work enough to have the money that I need to go to school, and then I can, you know, go to school for 4 years, and then maybe another 2 years, and then I can be in my gifts. Fuck that. That is bullshit.
After this virus,
You are meant to be in your gifts now. You don't have to wait for anything. You don't have to wait to have enough money to get the right piece of paper, to have the education. Like, you have the gifts that you were meant to have now, and you're meant to use them now. You're not meant to wait. You're not meant to have this if-then idea of, you know, when I have all these things in place, then I will have this worth, and then my gifts will be worth something. No, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yes. And you're lying to yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes,
well, again, it's saying that you don't have the talents now if you're waiting for something, right? That you're waiting for that approval from someone or that piece of paper or something. And you do have gifts right now. And maybe it's an introspection. Maybe it is something that where we need to take a little bit more time to see exactly where, you know, where that works in or whatever, but it's not a waiting game.
Well, and I think sometimes it is that we feel so, we really feel that we need the validation of everybody else, so we have to go get the degree or whatever. And sometimes this is just a way of self-sabotaging. It's a way of saying, well, I can't yet. I can't be in my gifts because I don't have blah, blah, blah. And it's a way of self-sabotaging.
And fear.
Yeah, so we get to that too. You know, some of the other big ways that we go out looking for evidence that we're not good enough is very often I see this in relationships where we set ourselves up for wanting somebody to choose us. So if we feel rejection from a job, or we feel rejection from a friend, or we feel rejection from a partner, especially a partner, you know, then that is like proof that we're not good enough. It's proof that I knew it. I really am a piece of shit. I really am not good enough. And I see this over and over and over in romantic relationships where their worth is so tied to that person that if that person rejects them or says, you know, this isn't working out, I think I want a divorce, or I think I want to separate, or whatever the narrative is, that somehow we're like, yep, I knew it. And this is huge because our worth isn't based on somebody else's opinion of us, and it's not based on somebody else choosing us. So my life gets to be amazing and wonderful, and I get to honor my self-worth with or without another person. So another person saying that they have decided that our paths are no longer compatible has nothing to do. It's completely unlinked with my worth. It has zero bearing on my worth. It just means, oh, I get to experience some grief that this person may not walk this path.
Yeah. And they're not your person. I'm so glad we're talking about this. This is just really good stuff. It's also where domestic violence ends up popping in, because if you know, if I can't have you, no one can, and it's waiting for their, and you, or they liked you at one point, and you know, why don't they like you now? If I just, you get back into the cycle, you're back on the treadmill, you know, working harder, trying harder. If I just do this, then they'll like me more. If I if I just wouldn't have spoken up about how I felt, then this would all be better. And I'm putting my value on the line, or my worth on the line, when I say that I at all costs have to have this person, or even turning it around. If that person says I'm the only one they can have, I don't know. Or if they don't choose me, then there's something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is really huge. I also see another one that's kind of tied into this one is women or men choosing partners who have had many partners where things haven't worked out, and then saying, well, I'm going to be the different one, right? I'm going to be the exception to the rule, because what you're really doing is trying to prove that you're really good enough. Nobody else was good enough, but I'm proving I'm good enough because it's going to work with me. And really, again, this is linking something that has no connection. Somebody else's pattern of relationships and them not working out has zero to do with your self-worth, zero to do with how valuable you are. If they have broken abilities, sorry, broken is not a great word to use there, but if they have a dysfunctional pattern with people, with relationships, and you aren't able to change it, first of all, you're not able to change anybody anyway. If he wants to change his dysfunctional relationship patterns, he gets to work on himself. No amount of you working on yourself or you working on the relationship is going to change his dysfunctional relationship patterns. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't mean anything to do with your value. Nothing. But I see it happen all the time. I'm going to be the different one. I'm going to be the one that makes it work. And I think this is a huge indicator of searching for evidence that you're not good enough. Because what happens then? It all dissolves. I knew it. I wasn't good enough. I knew it.
In that case, you're just finding people to validate your theory, right? It's
Yeah,
a whole different
all
kind of validation.
all of these cases, yeah, we're finding other people and their opinions to show us that we're not good enough. Mm-hmm.
And what if just being yourself, what if being yourself was enough? No titles, because titles gets you tricky too. Like, I'm the president, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a all those titles sometimes we use as worth or self-worth, or we allow society to say that someone is better or unworthy or worthy. When my daughter was in the Coast Guard, she was 23, and they were like, "You're not married yet?" And then she was like 20. I think she didn't get married until her late 20s, but they're always asking, and they think that something's wrong with her if she's not married yet. And I have a friend who's over 40 and one who's over 50 who aren't married yet. They didn't find someone that they really wanted to share that relationship with, and that's perfectly okay. They fought for what they felt was their self-worth, and I love that. I really do love that. Just if you're just wonderful just the way you are, perfect. And if you're questioning it, then that's an indicator. Or if you're seeking that outside validation, and we've all been guilty. I know I have many times looked for approval from other people, that acceptance from a certain person or a certain group. And yeah, it's just something that we're all guilty of.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the rules and identities. Yeah, there's all these unspoken rules that we're living by, which are, again, a lot of this earning paradigm, earning your worth. If you're a good person, then you will X, Y, Z. If you're a good wife, you will do X, Y, Z. If you're a good friend, you'll do X, Y, Z. They're very, very limiting, very boxed in concepts. And very often they don't jive with our own inspiration and really what we want to be doing and how our lives maybe we don't want to live up to the identities that our parents set out for us. Maybe we don't want to be the doctor. Maybe we don't want to get married. Maybe we don't want to have a big family. And so there's a lot of these like conflicting ideas where internally, like, we were sent here, right? We were sent to this planet with a purpose and with a calling, and it's not everybody else's, and it doesn't all look the same way. And so you have a choice. We all have a choice whether we're going to be true to that internal calling that often, if not all the time, flies in the face of what we're told we're supposed to be and do. So we get to decide if we're going to conform and really try to earn this worth. And again, this is like a treadmill, it never ends. You never find yourself truly feeling worthy. You find yourself, earning. And then, if you make it to the top of the pedestal, you're just really worried and consumed about keeping up those appearances.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, then what?
Yeah.
So you've arrived, now what?
Yeah. And it's not very fulfilling. So it really is, being willing to take a stand against all the rules and against all the identities that you're told you're supposed to play in order to be a good person, in order to be worthy, and truly following your divine calling here, which is, it looks very different. So.
I think, the rule of thumb is just using that compass, that internal compass, your intuition, your guide, and allow that to indicate. And I think the one rule of thumb is, does it bring you joy? What you're doing, how you're being in this world, does it bring you joy? And if it doesn't, that's an indicator that you might be seeking something else. But just this life was meant to bring you joy, and you are meant to bring joy to others. And it's not something that, like you said, you don't have to earn it.
Yeah.
You just get to be.
Well, and that reminds me of what we talked about last week, which was desire, right? Being able to have what you want and not make it bad or wrong, even when your desires conflict with what those rules and identities and things that you're supposed to do say. Like, we were given our desire for a reason, and often our desire is the way our intuition is speaking to us. So the very thing we're demonizing is the thing that is really showing us our path and is really showing us what we're here to do. So I think the more that we are off chasing our worth, the less we are actually in our calling.
I agree.
So,
that touched me very much. Thank you for saying that. It's so true. We're demonizing the very tool that we get to use in this world to navigate. So
absolutely, yeah, we were given that divinely. That was not by accident. Our desire is not meant to be suppressed. It's a guidance tool for us. So I just encourage you, as we kind of wrap this up, I encourage you to look at the amount of time you're spending looking for evidence that you're not good enough. And this is an issue that a lot of people come to me saying, how do I fix my self-worth, right? Yeah. How do I make it better? How do I make myself better?
Achievement. Check on the list.
It's not about force. It's not about forcing yourself to think of yourself better. There's so many pieces to this. What are you focusing on? Whose opinions are you focusing on? What boundaries are you setting? Another Brene Brown quote that I love is, when you believe you're enough, you'll say you're enough. When you believe you're enough, you'll say enough, which is that boundary setting piece, saying enough. And I also believe it works the other way around. When we start to say enough, we start to believe we're enough. And so there's lots of pieces to self-worth. And really, we're all here to master this. So if you don't just get it right away, it's okay, because it's meant to be a process. So
can I just add, and that goes for ourselves too, saying enough to ourselves and stopping those voices that are going on in our own heads as well, because that's that's where it has to start. So I love that you use that word enough, because inside your head, that's a good place to start. If you feel that those things are coming up for you, that's a really good place to start. Okay, I've had enough. Thanks for sharing. I don't need you anymore.
Yeah, and it's not so much about making the voices stop. It's about standing up to them and saying, I hear you. Okay. And we're gonna choose to believe something else this time. But thanks for
I like it. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. We get to break out of all these old paradigms, all the old beliefs. We get to break out of the rules, the identities. You know, I get to remind myself too, right?
Yes. Oh, that's a cool that. Well, yeah, that leaves room and opens the path and the way for creativity and expansion. So yeah.
Yes. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of standing up for yourself and standing really against some of the supposed tos and shoulds that you're probably experiencing. You don't have to earn your worth. That's a bunch of bullshit. So I hope we were able to uncover that a little bit for you today. As we wrap up here, I'd love to just throw it out there that we would love for you to contact us with any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, challenges that come up for you. Sometimes people listen to our podcast and go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Or how can you possibly believe that? Like, we'd like to hear all of that. If you have objections, like, share them with us so that we can talk to you about it and we can talk about it over the air, because often if you're having those thoughts, other people are too. So,
we don't shy away from a different perspective or a point of view. So yeah, we love to hear from you.
Yeah, for sure. So if you have questions or comments, you can contact me at defytheaverage@gmail.com. And you can contact Marie
at mariesgold.com.
And then you can also, again, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/Braveheart Conversations. So you can start some discussions there or find any of our podcasts. And with that, I hope you all make it a great week, and we will be here again next Thursday.
Thank you.
Bye.